Have you heard? It's truck news.
Yes, 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 yes. No.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck. 'Cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
The Truck Show podcast is proudly brought to you in partnership with AMSOIL, the maker of the best synthetics and the same ones we use in our rigs. Did you know AMSOIL is more than just synthetic oil? They also make some of the finest lubricants, greases, additives, filters, car care products, and yes, even merch. We use AMSOIL products to protect our rigs, and you can do the same by heading to amsoil.com or to truckshowpodcast.com and find our link under the featured products tab. Do you need a knife? Then head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com and explore their line of exceptional pocket knives. They have a huge selection of quality knives from EDCs, ones that are made in America, and of course, automatics. Score one for yourself today. If you want to treat yourself to the latest in adventure, gear, and upgrades for your vehicle, go to ovrmag.com and use the code @TruckShowPodcast for a discount on print or 1-year access to our digital library for free. The Truck Show podcast survives off of sponsorships and your reviews. Please help me to keep it free by supporting our sponsors and leaving reviews and comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Have you heard?
No.
Well, I'll fill you in because we got a whole lot to talk about. The first thing is Stellantis gone wild. They had Investor Day 2026 last week, and they went absolutely nuts. You can tell that the company is being run by enthusiasts and people who want to win rather than bean counters who want to squeeze every last drop of profit out of the company. They debuted a plan called Fastlane 2030, which highlights a $41 billion investment into our region, $69 billion globally. Product development cycles that got cut from 40 months down to 24 months. And they want back into the volume game, the enthusiast market, and vehicles that people want and can afford. So globally, the breakdown appears to include 29 EVs, 15 plug-in hybrids or range-extended EVs, 24 non-plug-in hybrids, and 39 gas-powered models. Stellantis is now saying that 4 of their brands are global, so that includes Jeep, Ram, Peugeot, and Fiat, and the rest are now regional brands, and that would be Chrysler, Dodge, Citroen, Opel, and Alfa Romeo. So this whole plan, the Fastlane 2030, for the U.S., it means a 50% increase in market coverage, 11 new vehicles delivering more than 35% more volume by 2030. 9 of the vehicles are targeted to be under $40,000 and 2 under $30,000. So here are a few highlights. We'll start with Dodge. Not a lot of truck news, obviously, but they get a new hypercar called the Copperhead, which has tones of the Copperhead concept vehicle from many, many years ago. And it seems like it is underpinned by the new Charger platform. So it'll be really interesting to see what that turns out to be. People who saw it at the investor meeting said there were 3D printed models, and it sounds pretty cool. They're also getting a sporty crossover/SUV called the GLH. So you'll remember the old Omni GLH, which was an exercise in badge engineering itself, but this GLH, just like the Shelby tagline, goes like hell, is destined to replace the floundering Hornet, which itself was just the Alpha Tonal, really badge engineered. I mean, there's almost nothing Dodge about it. And Chrysler gets to be the affordable brand, and it'll have several new models coming out. But the real news is with Jeep. How about a Scrambler SRT?
Say what?
That's right. The Scrambler SRT is based on a Gladiator, but it's going to be a 2-door. And apparently it's reminiscent of the EJS concept by the same name. And it sounds like it's going to get IFS and then maybe independent rear suspension.
What you talking about, Willis, dude?
So IRS, IFS, no solid axle, and it's supposed to share platform with the Gladiator that's getting redesigned. So does that mean the Gladiator goes IFS? I don't know. And I don't think the Gladiator will go IRS, but I think they're trying to fit IRS under the Scrambler. It sounds like they're trying to make a sports car for the dirt, so I don't know if it'll be quite like Bronco Raptor. It sounds like maybe a little bit more sporty, maneuverable, but they want to have 4 seats, a removable top. The rear seats can be adjusted or swiveled to face rearward. It's got a lean forward grille, and it sounds like it's going to be an SRT product, or there'll be an SRT version of that, which means they'll probably get a 392. Google Easter Jeep Safari Jeep Scrambler concept, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It sounds like they're trying to bring that to market. As long as it doesn't replace Wrangler and solid axles, that's a Jeep thing. That has to stay. But if they're going to experiment with some other stuff and do some other suspension design and cater to the Go Fast crowd, and it's going to be a standalone product, you might have my attention. So let's just see where it goes. But by all accounts, it was super rad. What engine do you want in it? Do you want the 392? Is a Hellcat and something like that too much? I don't know. And then it was also noted that the EV Recon, known as the EJ, electric Jeep, is going to have an ICE option. They're actively working on putting a gasoline engine in that. We've talked about it on podcasts before, but now I guess it's unofficially official. I'm guessing it'll probably be the 2-liter Hurricane, especially if it's the one that just came out of the new Grand Cherokee, which is super potent. Is this a 4Runner Pilot competitor? Because originally EJ was supposed to replace Wrangler until smarter minds prevailed and said, no, this is going to be its own product. And it has a lot of the Wrangler remove the windows and doors and all that kind of stuff, but it's it's not a convertible. So it's really interesting. It's close to Wrangler, but it's not the same thing. So does it cater to somebody who thinks they want a Wrangler, or they want the open air feel of a Wrangler, but they don't want the drawbacks of a Wrangler, and they don't need the off-road capability, or they just need a little bit of off-road capability? I'm not sure. Where does that leave Wrangler? Again, hopefully with a solid axle. All right, moving on to Ram. Ram is finally going to get to be the full-line truck brand it's always wanted to be. We've been talking about and know that the 28 Dakota is coming, possibly sharing a platform with the refreshed Gladiator. I think that would make sense. But we've been talking about the Rampage, which is built in Brazil, and it looks like Ford is getting a competitor for the Maverick because the Rampage is coming to the United States.
Wow.
It's also going to be the return of the reimagined ProMaster City van and Ramcharger full-size SUV. But not much was discussed on the presumably still upcoming Ram Rev, which is the range extended. So a lot of questions there. Going back to Rampage, the U.S. spec unibody Rampage, which is currently built in Brazil, well, it'll be essentially identical to what you get in South America. It'll go head-to-head with Maverick. You can expect the 2-liter Hurricane, at least as one of the engine options, maybe the 1.6 also which is a hybrid out of the Cherokee. Our guess is that production will be moved to the U.S. so they avoid the 25% chicken tax and any tariffs coming from Brazil. Production is supposed to start in 28, and I wonder if Lightning will trade the TRX for Rampage, because I know he really likes that little truck. He thinks it's super cool, and he'll probably be the first one ready to slam it on the ground and replace his Mini. All right, moving on to Dakota. So Dakota's still coming. Few more details. Ram says the upcoming Dakota will be the most powerful mid-size truck. So currently that title goes to Ranger Raptor at 405 horsepower. And they've confirmed there will be a Dakota SRT. So could that possibly mean a V8 mid-size again? Would you buy a Dakota with a 392? I know I would. We know the Gladiator's going to get it soon. Also, Dakota was said to be a bit wider than the competition for more interior room. So the question is, does the Dakota go more in the vein of off-road TRX or street truck Rumblebee? And I think that's a question that we are all going to be anxious to find the answer to. And the base Dakota will be one of the vehicles under $40,000, again, for the base. Now, moving on to the Ramcharger, the SUV, not the battery electric version of the Ram, based on the Grand Wagoneer. So, of course, that's built on the same platform as the Ram 1500, the DT. So that all makes sense. CEO Tim Kuniskis confirmed that the Ramcharger SUV will eventually include, guess what? SRT model. So what better way to compete with the Escalade than a Hellcat-powered SUV? I mean, that could be pretty cool, right? Unknown right now, but we are guessing it'll still be available in the 2 lengths that the Grand Wagoneer is available in. So, man, that's a lot of stuff. There was a lot of things that came out of that. Those are the ones that are important to the Truck Show podcast audience. But if you look at the entire Stellantis picture, they're going all in, and it's great to see the vehicles that are coming out. And I don't know, I'm super stoked. All right, moving over to Ford, there's some big news in the Super Duty lineup. And everybody loves the 7.3-liter Godzilla. And not too many people knew that there was a entry-level engine, a 6.8-liter. So the 7.3-liter Godzilla was introduced for the 2020 model year. And then Ford made a 6.8-liter version, which was effectively a D-stroke version of the 7.3. Well, that came out in model year 2023 and no longer available. So apparently Ford is saying, you know what, quote unquote, to better align with the needs of our customers, we're making the 7.3-liter V8 our most powerful and popular gas engine, the standard engine across the Super Duty lineup. And if you looked at it, there's only a $1,000 upcharge to go from the 6.8 to the 7.3. So there wasn't a huge cost savings there. And power went from 405 horsepower and 445 pound-feet of torque to 430 horsepower and 485 pound-feet. So at that point, why not just get the bigger engine? So Ford seems to be following a trend that itself kind of did with the 6.7-liter high-output Power Stroke being the standard engine for 2027. And Ram also did the same thing on the 2025 Ram, where they said, nope, no more split outputs. The high output is going to be our standard engine. So I feel like that's just the way the industry is moving. I don't know if it's because there's enough profit margin in there, or they like the higher prices, or customers just didn't care and they wanted best. They might as well just capture that from all customers. Not sure, but no more two versions of the Godzilla in the Super Duty. For anyone who's ever wanted to drive a Peterbilt, but they don't have the necessary commercial driver's license, well, U-Haul has your back with a brand new offering, a medium-duty Peterbilt 536-based moving truck dubbed the EM for Easy Mover. It's a 29-foot box, 36 feet overall when you include the truck, has 2,057 cubic feet of storage space, and it's got the 6.7-liter gas Cummins B 6.7 octane, which in and of itself is another story. The 6.7-liter B 6.7 octane is essentially the diesel engine with a different head and spark plugs and a few other things, but it was designed for companies and fleet customers that wanted to have a gasoline option with the durable straight six. Makes sense for a company like U-Haul because most of their customers are buying gas anyway, and they aren't going to be as familiar with pulling up to the diesel pump, and U-Haul just didn't want the headache of putting the wrong type of fuel in there. So they're going all gas, whereas in the rest of the Peterbilt 536, I believe it's Packard diesel. That's the options. Anyway, it'll first be deployed to the Los Angeles and Philadelphia regions, and I believe it was deployed this weekend because Memorial Day weekend appears to be one of their hottest moving weekends. So a few specs that we got from U-Haul. It's got a loading ramp width of 2 feet 7 inches, a max load of 11,939 pounds. The gross vehicle weight rating, 25,999. So that is 1 pound less than what you would be required to have a commercial driver's license. Empty weight is 14,060 pounds. Towing capacity up to 10,000 pounds. Clearance height, 12 feet. Passenger capacity, 3. And it has power windows, power locks, cruise control, air conditioning, and yes, disc brakes. Again, the powertrain, 6.7-liter turbocharged direct injection gas engine with 300 horsepower and 660 pound-feet of torque. Takes regular unleaded gas. Fuel tank size is 60 gallons, and it gets an estimated 8 miles per gallon. So quick calculation, that gives you about a 480-mile range. However, U-Haul says that if you're staying in the city and you're going to pick it up and deliver it back to the location that you got it from, it'll only be $49.95 a day plus mileage to rent, and that's pretty awesome. So I find it interesting that the manufacturer is the ones who certify gross vehicle weight rating, and obviously Peterbilt and U-Haul got together and said, we want anybody to be able to drive this truck, and that's why it's certified exactly to $25,999. So go rent yourself a truck and experience a Peterbilt medium duty from your friends over at U-Haul. All right, let's end it on some recall news.
Check engine light just went on. Noise under the hood takes like a bomb. Recall covers metal, glass, leather, and plastic. Door handle pulled off in my hand. Just fantastic.
All right, going back to Toyota for this one on the Toyota Tundra. So far, 225,000 non-hybrid 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6s, mostly associated with the Tundra, but also affecting Lexus SUVs, have been recalled due, according to Toyota for machining debris. Well, Toyota just added another 44,000 more 24 Tundras to the headache of a recall with the same quote as before, and that is, quote unquote, there's a possibility that certain machining debris may not have been cleared from the engine when it was produced. So what happens is whatever this debris is causes the number 1 or I guess number 2 bearing to fail. But what's puzzling to me is that this batch of engines was produced under tighter safeguards because the release continued. Quote unquote, the engines involved in this new recall were produced using additional controls for removing manufacturing debris. We have found that even after these additional controls, the remaining debris could be sufficient to cause damage to the number 1 main bearing and lead to this issue. So if you're worried about later built Tundras, Toyota says engines produced after those included in this recall were manufactured with an improved number 1 main bearing to help resist certain debris that might remain. So it sounds like they haven't totally fixed the contamination issue. And I don't know if they have a bearing that has more clearance or what happens, and then that allows the oil to flush through them. But sounds like you're not out of the woods, even if you have a later 24 or early 25 model. As of this point, Toyota says they've completed 77,000 recall repairs so far. And no word in the story that I read if you've already paid for engine work where they replaced components, if it wasn't covered in this recall. If you had out of pocket, what do you do? I assume you can go back to your dealer or contact customer service maybe for a reimbursement now that that vehicle is covered, but I'm sure there's some edge cases or people in the middle. Anyway, if you are curious if your Tundra is part of the recall, again, no hybrids, only the twin-turbo V6 standard ICE engines. Go to your local dealer, run your VIN number, and they can tell you where you're at with it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Truck Show Podcast. Have you heard? And man, there's a lot to cover. And by the way, the news is getting cranked out left and right now. So I'm guessing our next Have You Heard will be just as interesting. Don't forget to follow us on social at Truck Show Podcast or Sean P. Holman. Or if you want to have an email read or a question answered on the air, truckshowpodcast@gmail.com is the email. Or you can be on the show by leaving a message on the 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105. We have to thank our sponsors, AMSOIL, Kershaw, and OVR Magazine. And, of course, don't forget to leave us a review. All right, that was a good one. Let's do it again soon.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.